This morning, we are getting a live look outside the Fulton County Jail, where sometime over the next 6 days, we are expecting some high-profile names to appear, including former President Donald Trump. Here are the 19 people who will be processed and booked after being indicted for allegedly trying to overturn Georgia's 2020 presidential election results. As we wait for Mr. Trump to make his appearance in Atlanta, many of his opponents have already come through on campaign events. One, also vying for the GOP nomination next year, took aim at Trump while speaking in Buckhead on Saturday. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie appeared at Atlanta radio host Eric Erickson's The Gathering event. Shortly after he left the ballroom at the Grand Hyatt, Christie came out and called Trump a coward for not agreeing to be at next week's Republican debate in Wisconsin. He then said it will eventually be up to the voters to decide which GOP candidate should run against President Biden next year.
Trump's made himself a candidate for president under the most ridiculous circumstances I've ever seen in my life. There's nothing more selfish than what he's doing. He's been charged with 4 different crimes, and yet he still persists in insisting that he has to be a candidate for president.
Joining me now is Chuck Todd from NBC's Meet the Press. Good morning, Chuck.
Hey, good morning.
We are keeping a close eye on the Fulton County Jail right now, 24/7, as former President Donald Trump has to turn himself in by Friday at noon. But the former president has announced he's going to skip the GOP debate on Wednesday. What is the strategy here? How does that affect the attention the voters give the debate and Trump this week?
Well, look, in some ways, I still think the debate's going to garner a lot of attention, and it was always going to be about Donald Trump, whether he was there or not. But, you know, I think we forget sometimes this is a fairly normal pattern for somebody that's as far ahead in a primary as he is. George W. Bush did not attend the first debate in 1999 when he was running for president and he was the front runner. Front runners don't want to participate in a lot of debates. It's usually not a smart strategy. Why? Especially if you're a former president or you're considered, because the minute you step on that debate stage, you've just leveled the playing field for everybody else. And if you're the one in first place, why put yourself on equal terrain with everybody else? So to me, strategically, it makes a ton of sense. Make them earn their way to be able to debate you. I don't expect Donald Trump to be on a debate stage until November at the soonest, and it wouldn't surprise me if he waited until December to show up to a debate, if he debates at all. But the debate itself is still going to be about Trump. It's going to be about where are you on Trump and these indictments. I think you're going to hear defenders on that stage. You're going to hear full-throated antagonists on that stage. And then you're going to hear this middle ground, which says, hey, he was a good president, but it's time to move on. And I do think what we'll get out of this debate is a sorting of sorts. Who's willing to truly confront the president? Who's willing to be his chief defender? I think I have an idea of who's going to be in which category, but let's see it play out on Wednesday night.
What are your ideas about where people are going to land? Because obviously, even though he's not there, you mentioned the debate will probably be about him, and those battles, his legal battles, are going to come into play for the candidates. Do you think we're going to see any surprises about who is going to either support or criticize President Trump on that stage?
Honestly, because I do think there's an air of desperation in the room, particularly for somebody like Ron DeSantis, I just have a feeling there's going to be a lot of prepared one-liners that probably make it an uncomfortable debate, especially if some of these sort of gadfly candidates make the stage. There's somebody there that is going to need a lot of introducing to people that might end up qualifying for this debate, a gentleman by the name of Perry Johnson and stuff. So the point is that this could be sort of a weird collection of people where there's some odd moments. But look, I expect Vivek Ramaswamy to be the most pro-Trump. I expect Chris Christie to be the most anti-Trump. I'm curious about Pence, DeSantis, and Tim Scott. Does Mike Pence sharpen his anti-Trump rhetoric? I think he might. How does DeSantis and Scott handle this moment? They're both sort of eyeing each other as perhaps the second best candidate in Iowa. Do they start to go after each other? Do they get tough on Trump? Do they end up Trump defenders? I think those are all unknowns there. And I think what DeSantis and Scott do is what I'm the most curious about, because they haven't telegraphed what they're going to do on stage yet. The others have.
All right, Chuck, thanks so much. Meet the Press airs at 10 right after 11 Alive Weekend Morning News.